The silence of a woman who once begged for love is louder than any scream. Do you feel it? Maybe it's not pain consuming your chest now. Maybe it's the calm of someone who's tired of chasing, of explaining themselves, of trying to be enough for someone who's never seen their soul. Rumi wrote, "When the heart becomes quiet, it is because it has learned to no longer beg for crumbs of love." And that sentence seems to have been written for you, because you feel it. Something inside you has changed, not loudly, dramatically, or desperately, but like a leaf falling in autumn, quietly, but changing everything. Before, you needed to be seen. Now, you just observe. Before, you sent long texts, justifications, requests. Now, you don't respond, and not out of pride, but out of peace. What happened to that woman who despaired at every disappearance, every absence, every coldness disguised as male indifference? She died, or rather, she woke up. Today, this woman no longer begs. She takes a deep breath. She steps back. She watches. She understood that it's not love when it needs to be asked for, that it's not care when it needs to be demanded, that it's not connection when the other person only gets close when they feel her absence. And maybe you are living exactly that turning point, that moment when you no longer recognize yourself in the versions that tolerated everything, just to have something that seemed like affection. That moment when you become silent, not because you are suffocating, but because you understand that true power lies in silence, because the silence of a tired woman is a prayer. It's a revolution. It's the beginning of the end of a cycle. You don't need to justify yourself anymore. You no longer need to beg for presence. You no longer have to shrink yourself to fit into someone's emotional pocket. And maybe the world still thinks you're cold, that you are acting strange, that you changed. Yes, you have changed. You stopped begging. You started to remember who you are. And when a woman remembers who she is, nothing, absolutely nothing, makes her go back to the crumbs. Do you know why? Because the love she was looking for was inside her all along, but she could only see this after being ignored, after crying alone, after falling apart inside without anyone noticing. Rumi said, "You have to keep breaking your heart until it opens." And your heart finally opened, not to another man, but to the woman you're becoming. You're not the one running after anymore. You are the woman who walks alongside, or walks alone with dignity. You are no longer the one waiting for a message that never arrives. You are the one who remains silent and lets the echo of absence say everything that needs to be said. This calm is tamed fury. It is the longing overcome. It is the healing that does not scream, but that transforms everything. And if you're here, listening to this, it's because you've already started to feel this transformation. You no longer need to beg for affection. You no longer need to explain yourself to those who never cared to understand. You no longer have to shrink to be accepted. You are the woman who awakened from illusion. The woman who discovered that self-love doesn't need an audience. The woman who stopped begging and started choosing herself. But there is still a part inside you that resists. A part that wants to go back, that wants to believe again. Who thinks that maybe he will change, that maybe this time it will be different. And that's the part we need to talk about now. Because even after so much silence, even after you've stopped chasing, there's something inside you that still needs to be seen. A forgotten piece of your history that begs for understanding. Not from him, but from you. That's why this video exists. It is not a content. It's a mirror. A place where your silent pain finds a voice. Where your emotional fatigue is understood without judgment. Where your calm is finally honored. But for this message to reach more women who are exactly where you were, it's essential that you speak out. Comment below. I am the calm of someone who no longer begs for love. Write this down as a pact, as a new identity, as a whisper from your soul saying, I have set myself free. If you felt like this video touched something deep inside you, short now. And if you want to continue walking this process of liberation, subscribe. Here, each video is a letter from the soul to those who are tired of pretending they're fine. Here, every word is a silent embrace for the woman who decided to rebuild herself in silence. Prepare yourself. The most intense part of this journey begins now, and you are not alone anymore. Have you ever felt like you had to fight to be chosen? as if simply existing wasn't enough and you had to constantly prove your worth to someone who wouldn't even look you in the eye? How many times have you cried in silence, hiding behind a polite smile, telling the world that everything was fine, when inside you felt like you were imploding? How many times have you found yourself lying in bed, staring at the dark ceiling, waiting for a message that never arrived, a gesture of affection that never came, a minimal sign that you were important to someone who only thought of himself? The truth is that nobody saw it. No one realized the strength it took to not send that last message, to not beg for attention, to not humiliate themselves once again. You gradually withdrew into yourself, shrinking emotionally, to the point where loving someone began to mean disappearing from yourself. Why did love become like this? Why, for some women, has love become an emotional battlefield where they lose every day, silent parts of their dignity? It's because we were taught wrong. They made us believe that love needs to be conquered, maintained, sustained at any cost. We've been led to believe that if he walks away, the problem lies with us. That if he grows cold, it's because we weren't good enough. That if he leaves, it's because someone else was better. And so you enter this cycle, trying to be calmer, more patient, more understanding, more sensual, more available, more everything, except you. You begin to love from a place of scarcity, believing that you need to earn what should flow naturally. But the pain of begging for crumbs of love is invisible to those who have never had to do it. They don't see the lump in their throat. They don't feel the emptiness that tightens their chest. They don't understand the silent frustration of loving someone who responds to you coldly. They don't realize how much you're losing yourself trying to maintain a relationship that only exists when you insist. And that's why this pain hurts so much. Because she is lonely. Because it doesn't bleed on the outside. Because it is drowned out by empty advice and phrases that say, "He's just like that," or "You need to be more patient." But you've been too patient. You've given too many chances. He has been silent for too long so as not to lose the little he received. You tolerated absences, accepted halves. He believed in promises that were never fulfilled. And in the midst of all this, she forgot about herself. That's why the woman who once begged for love now carries an almost frightening calm. Because she had to die inside a few times until she understood that the problem wasn't her. The problem was the emotional system she was placed in. A system that rewards the silence of the woman who suffers in silence, who values those who love little, who demonstrate less, who are indifferent. And by cruel irony, the more you gave of yourself, the more you were ignored, the more she showed, the less she was seen, to the point where he began to wonder if love was worth it. And that is a painful question. Because love should be something sacred, but it becomes a burden when you're the only one carrying it. You're not exaggerating. You are not needy. You're hurt from years of relationships where being you was never enough. You didn't need to be calmer. You needed to be welcomed. You didn't need to be less intense. You needed to be heard with your soul, but instead you were silenced. And now, your silence has become your greatest answer. But this calm you carry today, this serenity that seems cold to others, is just a reflection of what you learned on your own. You learned not to beg for presence. He learned that whoever wants to be, is. Those who love, show it. Whoever feels, cares. It's not that you've become difficult. You just got tired of making things easier for those who never tried to deserve you. And if you've come this far, still listening, it's because that pain still exists somewhere inside you. Not as a weakness, but as a scar. And scars are nothing to be ashamed of. They are memories of what you survived. And now, I want to invite you to let your soul speak. Write in the comments with all the truth that exists in you. Today I am the woman who no longer begs for love. Write for yourself, for the others who haven't made it yet, for the old version of you that was begging. And stay with me, because what comes next will touch you even deeper. It's not about him. It never was. It's not about the one who left. It's not about the one who stayed, but was never truly there. It's not about the one who told you they loved you, and the next day acted like you were invisible. These men are just triggers. They trigger a pain that already existed before the first kiss. They are mirrors that reflect an older, more subtle, more silent absence. The absence of oneself. What you feel didn't start in that relationship that broke you. It started much earlier, in childhood perhaps, when you learned that you had to do something to deserve love. That she needed to behave, please, be quiet, be perfect, to be accepted. There, without realizing it, you associated love with performance. She learned that if love were something natural, she wouldn't have to try so hard to be seen. But since it wasn't, you fought. You gave yourself. You shaped yourself. And when he grew up, he repeated the pattern. He approached people who were emotionally absent, cold, distant, not by conscious choice, but because his soul was unconsciously trying to heal the first wound. That wound that taught you that love is scarce, is difficult, is fragile. That wound that said being you would never be enough. Rumi said, "You were born with wings. Why do you crawl through life looking for love?" And you crawled, not out of weakness, but out of loyalty to the ancient pain that still dwells silently within you. You begged for affection, not because you are needy, but because you still believe, somewhere in your subconscious, that you need to be less to be loved. Less intense, less true, less spontaneous, except you. And that's why you keep attracting people who can't see you. Because deep down, you still can't see yourself as a whole. You still shrink yourself to fit in, still shrinks to be accepted. She still keeps quiet so as not to be rejected. It still repeats the same story with different characters, but it's not about them. It's about your internal system, about your emotional makeup, about the plot that your soul desperately tries to resignify. And here's a hard but necessary truth. As long as you continue to look outside for what can only be healed within, you will continue to break your own heart, thinking it is bad luck, destiny, or punishment. But it isn't. It's repetition. It's trauma. It is an unconscious need to validate oneself through others. You want to be chosen because, deep down, you never chose yourself. She wants to be seen because she hasn't yet learned to see herself. She wants to be accepted because she still carries rejection as her identity. And that's not your fault. It's just the consequence of a story you lived without realizing that you were programming yourself to love in a distorted way. You learned that loving others comes before loving yourself. And that's why now, even when someone shows genuine interest, you doubt it. You reject what is calm. You are suspicious of what is light, because your emotional system only recognizes love when it hurts. But Rumi also said, you have to keep breaking your heart until it opens. And maybe this video is breaking another layer of your heart right now, not to hurt you, but to make room. Space for a new way of loving, space for a new consciousness, space for you to get in touch with the woman who exists beyond pain, beyond need, beyond fear. You are not weak for loving wrongly. You are brave for still having the ability to feel, because even after everything, your heart still beats. Even after rejections, he still wants to love. Even after the absences, he still believes there is something beyond the pain. And it exists, but it will only be real when it is born from within, when it stops being a search and becomes an encounter. Meeting with yourself, with its essence, with your soul. The woman who no longer begs for love is not cold. She is awake. She looked at his wound with compassion. She understood that giving yourself love is the key. She stopped chasing after it because she finally realized that she doesn't have to run for something that is rightfully hers. She doesn't beg because she understands that no one has the power to offer what only she can access. And that's why when you start to heal, many people walk away, because your new frequency begins to bother those who benefited from your absence. You start saying no, setting limits, to position oneself. And that scares anyone who knew you in survival mode. But don't come back. Don't back down. Don't silence your transformation to fit back into tight spaces. The woman that is being born within you now needs space, need to breathe. You need to live without begging. And if this part of the video touched you in any way, if it reminded you of something or someone, if it touched a spot that still bleeds, write a simple but powerful phrase in the comments to mark what is beginning within you. I choose myself every day. Say it for yourself. For everything you've endured, and for everything that will still blossom. What no one told you is that this calm that now envelops you, this serenity that seems strange even to you, isn't coldness. It's freedom. A silent, profound freedom, born from the exhaustion of trying to be enough for someone who never knew how to see you with your soul. This new version of you isn't the one who gave up on love. It's the one who stopped begging for it. She is the woman who learned the hard way that true love doesn't make you crawl, that someone's presence should never come at the cost of one's own absence. And that's the hidden key that no one taught you. For years you believed that love was only valuable if it was difficult, painful, full of trials. You thought that surrender had to come with sacrifice, that you had to give in again, give in one more time, until you disappeared. But no one told you that the love that demands its annulment was never love. No one told you that you weren't born to be accepted piecemeal, but to be honored whole. This calm you carry today is not an absence of love. It's love coming home, your own heart. It doesn't mean you don't feel it. It means you now feel it for yourself. That now you listen to yourself, respect yourself, protect yourself. You spent too much time trying to be chosen, waiting for someone to validate you, for someone to tell you, you are enough. But today you look in the mirror and understand. You no longer need to be chosen. You choose. Choose who your energy will connect with. Choose what you will allow into your life. Choose not to explain yourself to those who have never tried to understand. That's the key. Choice. The awareness that you have power over who comes in and who doesn't stay. That your love is not a prize for those who show up whenever they want. That your attention is sacred. Your presence is an altar. And your body, your home. Rumi said, "Don't be content with stories of how others lived. Awaken your own legend." And now you understand what that means. It's not about repeating the script of other women who suffered in silence. It's about creating your own path. A path where you don't beg to be seen, where you don't send texts that no one will read carefully, where you don't accept crumbs while offering emotional feasts. You're not the one begging anymore. You are the woman who silences, who observes, that withdraws when it is not welcomed, not out of pride, but out of conscience. Because now you understand that staying where there is no reciprocity is a form of abandoning yourself, and you've done this for too long. You've already left yourself last. He's already quiet, so as not to disturb anyone. You've already adapted to the other person's space, and forgotten about your own. Now the space is yours. Your body, your time, your energy, your emotion. None of this is for sale anymore. None of this will be traded for peanuts. And the most beautiful thing about this silent healing is that it doesn't need to be announced. You don't have to shout to say you've changed. Your energy already speaks for itself. The way you walk, the way you look, the way you no longer respond to what hurts you, the way you walk away in silence. All of this screams one truth. You came to your senses, and this return has no way back. Because once you discover the taste of living in peace, no emotional adrenaline will attract you anymore. Once you feel the touch of a love that doesn't force you to beg, you no longer accept confetti where there should be presence. Once you learn to be enough for yourself, other people's emptiness no longer convinces you to fill it with them. This key to healing is not in the other person changing. It's about you understanding that you never needed him to feel complete. It's about you sitting with yourself and saying, I have me. And only after that, only after this reconnection with your essence, will true love be able to arrive, if you deserve it. No longer as salvation. But how do I find it? Two integers that intersect without the need for filling, without chains, without charges. A woman who stops begging does not become cold. It becomes sacred. She begins to move with purpose. She chooses her silences wisely. She protects her energy like a temple. And she only opens the door to those who understand that being with her is a privilege, not a right. And if you feel that key is clicking into place within you now, if you feel that something has started to shift, even if it's still subtle, let your soul speak out. Write just one sentence in the comments, but one that captures everything you're feeling at this moment. Now I am the one who chooses. Tell yourself that, to remind you that the time for begging is over, that the calm you now carry is self-love breathing, and that your healing, even if silent, is already happening. Maybe you were just that woman, the one who sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, waiting for a notification that never arrived, the one who created entire dialogues in her head, trying to find the best way to say something without seeming needy, without seeming too intense, without seeming like yourself, the one who reviewed old messages, looking for signs of something that perhaps never really existed, the woman who knew she was being ignored, but still justified it. He must be busy. Maybe he's just got a lot on his mind. I understand. But deep down, you felt it. You felt the contempt disguised as distraction. You felt the absence that no one but you seemed to notice. And yet, you persisted. Why? Because your soul believed that if you loved more, if you did more, if you proved more, Eventually he would see. Eventually he would notice. Eventually he would miss you. But that time never came. And then something inside you broke. It wasn't an explosion. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't a dramatic enough. It was a silence, a weariness, a long pause between one expectation and the next frustration. You didn't chase after it this time. You didn't write. You didn't try to explain what hurt anymore. And for the first time, what hurt wasn't what he did. It was what you allowed for so long. That moment, that subtle rupture, is where change begins. You didn't turn your back out of pride. You turned because you understood that continuing to turn to someone who never truly looked at you was like staying in the dark, waiting for a light that wouldn't come. And the most impressive thing is that it was only when you stopped that he began to notice. Not because he realized who you were, but because his ego's nourishment disappeared. Because you were a constant presence, free validation, unconditional affection. And suddenly, you were absence. You were silence. And silence bothers more than any words. Before you would go out of your way, say Moldova. I pretended it didn't hurt so much. I put emojis where there was sadness. I would say, it's okay, when, inside, I felt like I was falling apart. I pretended to be light because I thought that being light was the only way to be loved. Now you are the silence that teaches, not because he wants to teach, but because she discovered that she no longer needs to speak to be heard. You no longer need to run after someone to be noticed. You no longer need to beg for presence to prove that you are worthy of love. You understood that true love does not require sacrifice of identity, that you don't have to disappear for someone to stay, that you don't need to emotionally abuse yourself to keep something alive. You turned the key, and when the key turns, nothing is the same. You might miss it. You might even have emotional setbacks. But something inside you already knows. You don't belong there anymore. The place where you kept quiet to keep the other person quiet. Where you smiled to avoid conflict. Where you accepted crumbs as if they were all you could have. And the best part is that you didn't do anything to get revenge, you just stopped. He stopped insisting, stopped giving in. He stopped offering love to those who only knew how to consume. And that's when he felt it. He felt the absence of the woman who filled all the spaces. The one who was there, even when he didn't deserve it. He missed the energy that supported his ego. But it was too late. Because the woman who once waited for a message now writes to herself. The woman who once needed an "I love you" now loves herself so deeply that no other person's silence can shake her. The woman who once did everything to be chosen now understands that being chosen by herself is the true beginning of everything. And this transformation is noiseless. There is no ad. It happens inside. Like a seed breaking through the earth in silence, you rise. Not to show anything to anyone, but because it no longer makes sense to crawl when you were born with wings. You may be experiencing this right now. Maybe it's in the middle of that crossing. Maybe you still look at your phone waiting, even after everything. Maybe you'll still relive the dialogues, try to understand where you went wrong. But the truth is that there was no mistake. There was delivery, there was love, there was an attempt, and now there is consciousness, there is presence. There is the woman who is emerging from emotional chaos, stronger, clearer, more whole. It's not about forgetting. It's not about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about moving on, even through the pain. It's about getting up, even when you miss someone. It's about saying to yourself, I don't beg anymore. Because you've discovered that worthwhile love never requires you to disappear to be loved. If you saw yourself in this process, if you felt as if this text had been written based on what you experienced, I want to invite you to record this. Write the sentence in the comments. I am the silence that liberates. Write for yourself, for all the times you stayed silent out of fear, and for this new version of you that finally found a meaning in keeping quiet, not out of weakness but out of strength. You didn't lose him. You found yourself. For the first time in a long time, you looked inside yourself honestly, not to look for culprits, but to rescue herself. The woman you had left forgotten among excuses, promises, expectations. The woman who was always in the background, stifled by attempts to be loved by someone who barely knew how to love himself. This change that is now happening within you is not an explosion. It's an awakening. It's the soul remembering who it is. It is your spirit, tired of being silent, whispering, enough. No more emotional crawling. Enough of waiting for recognition from those who never knew how to see you. No more measuring your worth by someone's presence or absence. Rumi whispers to your soul, do not be content with stories of how others loved. Awaken your own legend. And you feel the time has come to do just that. To stop living borrowed stories. To stop repeating the script of women who loved too much and lost themselves in the process. To finally start writing your own story. A story where you are no longer the one begging. You are the one who chooses. The one that silences with force. The one who remains at peace when the other tries to provoke storms. This new awareness changes everything. Change the way you look in the mirror. Change the way you respond to messages. Changes the way you enter and leave a conversation. Now you are aware of the signs. You see what you previously ignored. You hear what you previously tried to silence. You feel what your soul has always wanted to say, I want to go home. And your home is you. The calm you carry today is the sound of your soul coming home. It is your essence reclaiming space within you. It's no longer noise, anxiety, emotional rush. It is presence. It's centering. It is spiritual maturity. Now you don't love to feel complete. You love because you are complete. You don't seek to fill. You share because it already overflows. And this, to many, seems like coldness, but it's not coldness. It's clarity. The clarity of someone who has cried too much. From those who have believed sweet lies. From someone who has confused crumbs with banquets. The clarity of someone who is tired of trading their soul for a little company. You are no longer content with little, not out of arrogance, but because you know what's inside. And you know that no one, absolutely no one, has the right to devalue that. This is the turning point. The change that cannot be seen from the outside, but can be felt. The moment when, even in the face of the old pattern, you choose differently. The moment when, instead of running after it, you breathe. Instead of begging, you withdraw. Instead of blaming yourself, you embrace the pain and let it go. You realize the pain you felt wasn't because he left. It was because you remained where there was no longer reciprocity. And now that he left, now that he moved away, the air began to circulate again within his chest. You fit back into yourself. And that is freedom. The woman you are becoming is rare. She doesn't accept anything. She doesn't bend for fear of being alone. She prefers true silence to false noise. She learned that loneliness is not absence. It is presence. Presence of self. Presence of the soul. Presence of that which is real. You are no longer driven by need. Now, you act with conscience. Before, you begged for love. Today you realize that true love begins within. It is a vibration that does not depend on others to exist. It's a daily choice to honor yourself, even when it means losing someone you don't know how to love. You start to attract different people who respect your space, people who understand that love is not control, people who know that true love doesn't suffocate, it liberates. This is the consciousness that transforms, the awareness that you can feel the pain, but you don't have to live in it anymore. You may miss it, but you don't need to go back. You can remember it fondly, but you don't need to relive the cycle anymore. Now you walk towards what makes your soul breathe, and this walk is not in a hurry. No audience needed. It's intimate. It is sacred. It's yours. And if you feel that this new awareness is blossoming within you, even if timidly, if you feel that some part of you is saying, now I understand, write in the comments, simply but truthfully, my soul has returned home. Write for yourself. Write as a landmark. Write it down as a reminder that you haven't lost anything. You've just found yourself. If you've stayed this far, it's because something deep inside you resonated with each word. And that says a lot about the woman you're becoming. You're no longer the one who chases. You're the one who recognizes herself, the one who chooses herself, the one who embraces silence as healing. This video wasn't just a message. It was a mirror, a safe space for you to remember who you are, to reclaim your strength, and to honor your own soul. So now, if this message touched you and you feel like you're no longer alone on this journey, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Here, each video is a step closer to yourself. It's a conversation from the soul, for those who are tired of pretending they're okay and have finally decided to truly heal. Oh, and leave your like now, not for me, but for you, to honor the process you're going through, to to tell the world, I choose me. Now, the next video appearing on the screen is a continuation of this journey. It will take you even deeper, because your soul is not lost. It is just awakening, and this awakening has already begun.